Are you ready to stop stress, anxiety, and low self-esteem from running your life? Join award-winning author Dr. Friedemann from Empowerment Radio as he addresses some of the most prevailing challenges in our day-to-day lives. Find out how you can use the power of your mind to overcome self-sabotaging patterns and build a solid foundation of confidence and self-respect. Learn cutting-edge tools and approach every day with great ease, joy, and purpose. This is the time to empower yourself. Now, here's your host, Dr. Friedemann.
Welcome to Empowerment Radio. I'm your host, Dr. Friedemann. And today we're going to talk about something that everyone has, but not everyone is aware of. Everyone may have struggled with, but not everyone knows how to get out of these struggles. Everyone could take advantage of, but not everyone knows how to take advantage of. What I'm talking about is my good old friend, the subconscious mind. Now, I'm calling this the friend just because I think a lot of us have been seeing the subconscious more like an enemy, the inner saboteur, the critic that always yells in your ear and says all the nasty things you don't want to hear. And befriending with the subconscious hadn't been easy, including myself. To be honest, I didn't really know a lot about the subconscious until I started working with the subconscious. But its power had fascinated me once I really felt, maybe for the first time, what the subconscious can do. And this was during a hypnotherapy training where the person that hypnotized me, and I didn't really believe that I could be hypnotized. Well, I was totally wrong. The person that hypnotized me made me stiff like a board, completely stiff. And so I was literally standing like a stiff. And then someone came and grabbed my legs, someone came and grabbed my shoulders, and then they suspended me, just like a wooden board, between two chairs. It was only the back of my head and basically the back of my feet, the heels that were connected to the chairs. And everything else was like a bridge, beautifully hanging there, again, very stiff. It's a position that if I would have tried it to do without being hypnotized, would have been impossible. Really hard because, you're using a lot of muscle and it takes also a skill to be in that balanced place. But no, with this subconscious being fully active and being told stiff as a board, I was like that. And the funny thing about this whole experiment or this experience was that I was totally aware of what was happening. I wasn't like zonked out, drool coming out of my mouth. I was actually really completely aware that I am that stiff and that I'm hanging between two chairs, and I just let it happen. That was kind of the key. I let my subconscious take over and I didn't resist it. And it also proved to me that the subconscious can, completely without our conscious doing, simply take over. And that is part of the power of the subconscious mind, and it's also part of the challenge of the subconscious mind. So today I want to talk about the subconscious because it's really one of those key ingredients of the work I'm offering, and that's what has helped so many people to overcome their challenges with fear and anxiety and depression and insecurity and all those things that they had to deal with for a long time and struggled and felt like, I want to hit the head against the wall because I'm not any longer myself, or I don't know how to get out of this struggle and these challenges. And as soon as we started working with the subconscious, there was a complete different understanding of where their issues came from and what the subconscious actually had in mind and how to make the subconscious listen and how to take new steps and new ways of looking at oneself and looking at the world with the collaboration of the subconscious mind. So everything changed once the subconscious was involved. So it's really an incredibly powerful inner healer. It's a change maker. It's a creator. It's a manifester. The subconscious is potential, maybe those 90% that Einstein talked about we never use. So today I would like you to learn a little bit more and get some tools on how to tap into that potential. And the first step is to maybe learn a little bit more about the subconscious and understand more that it is not some enemy inside of you. It is actually a part of you that from the beginning of your existence has only your benefit in mind, even if it doesn't always look like it. So what is the subconscious? Well, the subconscious is like that deeper part of the mind. It's like an iceberg, the mind, so you have up there the conscious mind. That's a little piece that looks out. And down there is that deeper part, that subconscious. That is not always accessible. It's not always visible, but it's certainly doing a lot every day. And what does it do? Well, it does everything that the conscious, rational, intellectual mind is not really that good at or that involved. And that is a lot. Let's start with the emotions. How often do you wake up with a bad hair day and you just think, everything is horrible, everything is difficult, I feel anxious, whatever it is, and you have really no reason to feel that, but somehow you do. Well, come lunch, all of a sudden everything shifted. You're happy, you're whistling your favorite tune, you have a spring in your step. Nothing really had changed, but somehow your emotions have changed. So if someone would ask you so rationally, why do you feel better now than this morning? You probably couldn't give it an answer. So there is something irrational about our emotions, which shows you that the subconscious obviously is at work. Why it creates emotions, apparently so randomly, well, we get into this in a moment. Now, one of the other tasks of the subconscious are our memories. So when you think about let's say the first pet you had, what was its name? How did it look like? Or the color of the wall of your bedroom where you grew up in? Well, all of a sudden there is something popping in mind. A name, a color, a shape. Before you had thought about it, that wasn't there. But now that you think about it, that you ask, the answer comes from that vault of the subconscious. And that's so amazing about the subconscious, how that part of our mind keeps so much information available to us, but it doesn't really make our conscious mind overwhelmed and crowded with this information. It just keeps it readily available, and when we ask for it, usually it comes up. Now, it also suppresses memories and information, which is another really caring aspect of the subconscious. Basically, it says, well, this is too much for you. This was a trauma of your childhood, or this was an accident, or this was a shock. And because we are consciously not able to deal with it, at least from the perspective of the subconscious, it just puts it into a big black bag until we are maybe ready to deal with it, which often happens later on in life. Dreams, spontaneous memories come up. Or when people do some body work, like chiropractic treatment can bring up all of a sudden a memory of a trauma that you went through, or a massage or acupuncture, and then somehow the subconscious sees you as maybe ready to deal with whatever had created this trauma, and with that probably a lot of emotional charge and confusion. The subconscious also takes care of the body, and as a physician, I really didn't have a lot of trust in the body. I just was trained to believe, well, the body is like, some Italian car that always breaks down. Nothing against Italian cars, of course. Could be any other car, but it's just something that's fallible. It's really needing the constant help of doctors and medication and so on. And I didn't really see the wisdom and understand that all the cells, these trillions of cells, are beautifully working together. And how that is orchestrated, I never thought about until I got into research. And there, a whole new chapter of magic was opened where I could see, yeah, wow, this is actually amazing how cells have their own intelligence and how they can adapt and how they can read their environment and how they can heal themselves. And the question is, for me, what is actually doing that? What is that wisdom inside that makes it all somehow work together? And that is the subconscious mind. Now, that simple proof for that is when you are raising your arm like this. Well, you just may have thought, okay, I'm going to raise my arm, but do you know how many muscles you moved and how many tendons, got flexed or relaxed just by you having this idea of raising your arm in mind? And we all know that breathing and the heart beating and the digesting all happens without our conscious control. I mean, it would be kind of exhausting to always have to think to take a breath. But even when we are moving and we are thinking, well, we are consciously doing it, that what really it takes to move our body is so complex and happens so fast that our conscious mind really couldn't be in charge of it. That is where the subconscious comes in. And that is also because the subconscious is taking care of the body, where the emotions and the memories and that function or that overseer function of the body can at times intertwine. And we know that. We know that, for example, when we are stressed out or when we have some kind of anxiety, it can be transferred into the body, especially if we don't pay attention. If we feel like, well, I don't want to really think about what's going on in my life, well, the body then takes the brunt of the emotional load. And this is where then we are, eventually getting maybe some pain in the shoulders or in the neck or some ulcers in our stomach or any kind of those things. So that all is quite amazing in itself. Now, after the break, I will talk about something that even is more amazing about the subconscious, which has to do with intuition, with the view of the world, with our own identity, and the fact that about 90% of all of what we do each day is probably more guided and directed by the subconscious than our conscious mind. So are we actually trapped, held hostage by our subconscious? Well, we'll talk more about this after the break. Welcome back to Empowerment Radio. We are getting fired up about the subconscious mind. And if you ever wondered what your subconscious mind is doing, or you have any questions about how to handle it or maybe befriend it better, call in 800-930-2819. Again, 800-930-2819. Or you can also ask a question on the chat box on Transformation Talk Radio website. Talking about the subconscious mind, there was a study at the Columbia University which just demonstrates how amazingly capable and intelligent the subconscious is. So the study was simple. People were sitting in a theater and they saw random images of neutral faces. A little boring, but people just, went through it. Probably they got paid for it. Well, the idea was that after this, they would get measured with an MRI on the brain activity, on what actually happens inside of them. What they didn't know is that while they were watching these faces, interspersed in those neutral faces, very fast, were disturbing images, images of death or people being really angry or something that really was creating an emotion would create an emotion if you actually would consciously be aware of the picture. But because these pictures were so fast that consciously people didn't realize that they saw these images. So one group saw disturbing images, one group stayed just with the neutral images. When they measured the function of the brain, the people with disturbing images that they didn't consciously know were there had a stress reaction, an anxiety reaction. Their brain was firing completely different than this group that had just neutral images all through the experiment. So what it tells you is basically that the subconscious, even though the conscious mind couldn't compute, was completely aware of what happened and was directing the body to respond maybe in fight and flight. And that is one of those functions of the subconscious, that it's just faster. It gets things faster. It senses things in a much more subtle way, which is why when someone looks at you behind you, you feel it. When you enter a room and there's tension, you don't even know what's going on. You're just here for 2 seconds and you know there is tension. When there is intuition, when you feel like, well, somehow there is something going wrong, and 10 minutes later, something is going wrong, those things are all directed by the subconscious mind. And I think that's important to see, that the subconscious is on alert. It is aware. And these aspects of, being fast in taking on information, they certainly have a very good reason to be there, and they also get taken advantage of. There was this experiment about subliminal messages where in a supermarket they played German music, and all of a sudden at the end of the day all the German wine and beer was sold, and the next day they played French music, and all of a sudden the next day or in the evening all French wine was sold. And we know that from ourselves, just watching commercials. There are these subliminal messages that we just somehow take on that make us do things. Now, I want to just put a caveat on this. It is not that the subliminal messages can make you act against that what you believe in, or against that what you want. So let's say, for example, you would be a vegetarian, and there would be a subliminal message for you to buy a hamburger. You wouldn't do it because you have consciously decided that you don't like meat. And so your subconscious is not really available to that subliminal message. Same thing with, this idea that someone who does hypnosis can make someone do a crime. Well, unless this person is already willing to do a crime from the start, you cannot make anyone do anything that they don't want to do. They have to be on some level willing to take on that subliminal message. And that's just important because sometimes we think, well, the subconscious is just, being able to push it around or take advantage of, and that is not that easy. We have to be ready for it, and we have to give green light for that. Now, I talked before the break about the subconscious also having a lot to do with our identity and how we see the world. And that has to do with beliefs and values that are all installed inside of us early on. When you just are little and don't really know how to move around in the world and what's your worth and how do I interact, in those moments the subconscious says, okay, the best way to be is to, let's say, kind and a good student, or the best way to be is to make sure that you're always invisible so that you don't get in trouble, or the best way to be is to be gregarious and fun. And there are beliefs that come from the input and from the experiences we have early in our lives that get imprinted in our subconscious, and they stick around there, and they make you still act in ways that you may think you have outgrown it, but somehow those beliefs get triggered, and then you respond according to those beliefs. That's the same thing with how you see the world, whether you see the world as something good or bad, as something safe or something hard. All of those values and beliefs have an origin, and they all are in the subconscious mind. Another very important aspect of the subconscious are these automatic patterns. When you get up in the morning, you're still half asleep, you may have a little hangover, but somehow you are able to brush your teeth or shave your face or make a coffee while you're sleepwalking or while you're already thinking about, what you have to do today or what happened last night. You're consciously not really there, but someone does a coffee, someone doesn't cut your face, someone does put actually toothpaste and not hand cream on the toothbrush. So that's a subconscious doing. It just takes over. It drives you like an Uber driver to work. It gets you into your chair. It makes you find your mouth while you're watching TV and eating something. It's amazing when you really think about how often you're not present, how often we actually maybe in the past or the future or somewhere else, and we are still able to function and we are still able to be safe. That is all the subconscious just getting you into this, let's say, routine autopilot. And it makes sure that you're okay. Now, overall, you could say, isn't it great that the subconscious has such a powerful role in our life? And isn't it wonderful that it does so many good things? But somehow we are still struggling with it. We are still fighting the subconscious mind, right? I mean, when you think about you want to lose weight, but who puts all these pints of ice cream into, the shopping cart? Or let's say you want to go out and, get into a relationship. And who makes you somehow be so tongue-tied at the first date that despite your good intentions, it's never going to work out. And at the end, you feel like, once again, unlovable. That is where you may think that the subconscious is against you. It doesn't let you change. It doesn't make you feel better. It doesn't make you move forward. And that is where a lot of people don't trust their subconscious mind. They blame it for a lot of things that are not working in their lives. And that is understandable, but it's unfair and it's not true. And the reason why the subconscious does that has a lot to do with those filters that the subconscious has installed in order to not overwhelm you. And what I literally mean with that, it's like mufflers of consciousness. It's like that what basically blocks away anything that is deemed to be not important right now. And the subconscious does it because it knows that our conscious mind is rather a little weak. It's like a little computer of the late 80s. Doesn't work very fast, cannot compute a lot, and it needs a lot of help. So the subconscious says, you know what? I don't want to make you feel confused or slow you down or make you feel overwhelmed. So why don't I just block everything out of your peripheral vision and your focal vision as well? That is not really what you need to worry about. So those filters are the beliefs. Those filters are our values. They are our emotions. And those filters are those things we have taken on early in our life. And what I mean with this is, for example, the filter that would say that you are not good enough. Now, sounds terrible, right? The subconscious puts such a filter in your mind, but it does it because it feels, well, the past showed when you were already knowing that you're not good enough, you actually didn't try anything that made you fail or made you be rejected or made you feel once again that someone hurts you or criticizes you. So the filter of not being good enough makes you already look at things that's too big for me, or I don't really want to see this opportunity because I probably will mess it up anyhow. And even though consciously you feel like, well, that's counterproductive, the reason why the subconscious does it is because it wants to keep you safe. It wants to avoid any form of pain. And this is what I really would like you to understand. Anything the subconscious does has only two bigger ideas behind. The idea of keeping you safe and the idea of making you happy. But if safety is not guaranteed, the subconscious will always go first to how can I protect him or her versus how can I make you happy? And that is the shift that we need to make in order to change. We'll talk more about this right after the break.